Still hasn't been any word, really, mostly silence from the White House regarding Aide Kelly Sadler's comment about Senator John McCain. Here's all the press secretary Sanders would say when she was asked about it on Friday.
I'm not going to comment on an internal staff meeting. The president, as I mentioned just a moment ago, supports all Americans. If you look at what he's doing every single day, he's showing up to work. He's working hard to make this country better.
ACU's Chief Matt Schlapp, who's married to White House Strategic Communications Director Mercedes Schlapp, even tried to make this pivot in the morning. Check this out.
Kelly is my friend, and I feel bad that she's going through this. She showed character to immediately call to apologize, but she's also a little bit of a victim here. My view is that a confidential meeting, and I've been in a lot of them, so is Bill, inside the White House, once you start commenting about leaks out of those meetings, you will never be able to appropriately run your agenda, and you shouldn't comment on it.
So why is this so difficult to own up to the fact that something really awful was said, and it was so awful that people say it shouldn't have been leaked because it was so awful?
It was such an easy thing to do because it wasn't Donald Trump saying it. This would have been one of those opportunities they could seize it and say, this was something. It was off the radar of importance in regard to when it was said and who said it. They could have played that up and been like, a White House aide said this, rather than avoiding it as if they're defending it.
My guess is that it was leaked because it was so offensive.
Yes.
And people within the White House at that meeting felt that there would be no apology and would be no redress. And they wanted to somehow get it out that this is what happens in this White House. That is my guess.
How do you think Donald Trump likes the fact that there are people sitting in those meetings who also can't stand him? That want to leak to the press.
Yes.
But this would have been an easy one to spin. That's what I'm saying. Is I'm sure the people leaked it because it was so offensive, and they said people didn't laugh, and it was awful. But for the White House, this would have been an easy strategic PR moment for them because it wasn't finally Donald Trump saying it.
He won't do it.
I mean, it's obviously awkward because we're talking about my father and my family, and I had a very long weekend, and I have 6 brothers and sisters and 5 nieces and nephews. I have a really big family, so I just want to emphasize that I have a really big family that's involved in all this. My take on all of this, I said everything I really had to say on Friday and to ABC's Tara Palmieri on Sunday, that people are going to have to answer for their own conscience. When you go on TV, I've never actually gone on TV and lied. I have that liberty in my life. And I think when you go on TV and you say things like this, your belief in right and wrong, people espouse a lot about God and living with values. And when you say things like that, it's what you're going to have to live with at this point. And I just want to say one more thing. May is Brain Cancer Awareness Month. That's why I'm wearing gray. Gray Lives Matter is the hashtag that people use. Glioblastoma, specifically the one that my dad has the highest number of cases, 12,760 in 2018. Brain tumors are actually the most common among ages 0 to 14 and the leading cause of cancer-related death in children 0 to 14. When I was with my dad when he was getting his proton beam radiation, I saw a lot of kids going in to get radiation. There's not enough research. There's not enough money. The only silver lining of all of this, including this horrific weekend and moment that my family's been having, is we have a platform to hopefully pivot this towards brain cancer research and helping especially children in need.
I agree. I mean, at least
Mitt Romney tweeted on Saturday, "Those who mock such greatness only humiliate themselves and their silent accomplices." And Lindsey Graham said on Face the Nation, "I just wish somebody from the White House would tell the country that it was inappropriate, that that's not who we are in the Trump administration."
But where is Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell? Crickets from them.
No, Paul Ryan came out and said something very nice. He was lauding my dad's praises over the weekend. And I would like to say Bernie Sanders, I would like to say thank you to, and Ambassador Bolton also said wonderful things. There are people with character still serving on all sides everywhere. But the thing I've sort of come to terms with is that we have to be the leadership we don't have now. And I always took advantage of the fact that we always had leaders and I always had role models in politics. If we don't have that, okay, you got some on The View with all of us. Everyone in the room, there are people,
Well, you know, John Meacham. John Meacham is the historian.
My
He's
first
great.
boss,
He's wonderful. And he was talking about in history there have been fascist, tendencies in the country. There's been terrible things, the Klan, all sorts of bad things went on. But what stopped all of that was resistance and rebellion against it. So keep that in mind out there.
And people speaking out. The one thing that I really feel that the White House's silence means that they're complicit. Those
Why
that
is she a
aren't saying
victim?
it.
What's the victimization of this girl?
And Matt Schlapp said that, and we need to call him out because he is supposed to be, he's a Notre Dame Catholic, he graduated from my alma mater, I spent a lot of time with him at the White House Correspondents' Weekend, and he and his wife walked out of Michelle Wolf's set because they were so freaking offended. Well, if you were so offended by that, Matt Schlapp, and your wife, why are you not offended by what said?
Well done.
Why were you not offended by that?
But
disgusting.
left the White House dinner because they were so offended and then jumped to the after party immediately afterwards. They weren't that offended. Going to the after party.
They were in a hurry to get to the party? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they did.
Well, the victimization that they're talking about, I feel like they should not be ashamed people found out. They should be ashamed they said it in the first place.
But
That's misplacing the blame.
Like, you're right. You're right. But if you're a public figure and if you're working in the White House, you should expect everything you're saying in any context to be leaked. If someone said something that egregious and intense on this show backstage, I'd expect it to be on the Daily Mail in 8 seconds. So we don't live in a time anymore, and you really aren't working in a White House that doesn't have a leaking problem. So if I were going into meetings, I would assume everything could be talked about on The View the next day.
But they have a lot of leaks at the White House.
Yes, well, they do. And that's why this idea of, oh, we're so upset we were leaked. It's kind of like you've been leaking since you got in.
Yeah.
And you keep saying, I mean, this is not, it shouldn't be a surprise, but what it should be is you should, shame on y'all. Shame on y'all, because you know what? We hear folks on the left and the right always, well, they should apologize for that. They should apologize. And folks do. Folks go out of their way to try to make their apology, okay? So this is worse than just about anything because it was said with no thought that this was not a good thing to say, that this was not funny, that this is not something that you would say normally. So shame on y'all. And you know what? Don't apologize. Do apologize. She's fine.
I'm good.
Okay?
Yeah.
She's fine. We'll be right back. So White House Chief of Staff John Kelly must not have read the invitation to immigrants on the Statue of Liberty because he claims that the vast majority of undocumented immigrants are uneducated, don't speak English, don't integrate well, and don't have any skills. And conservative pundit Tomi Lahren took it even further. Take a look.
Well, these people need to understand that it's a privilege to be an American, and that's a privilege that you work towards. It's not a right. You don't just come into this country with low skills, low education, not understanding the language, and come into our country because someone says it makes them feel nice. That's not what this country is based on. We are based on the rule of law, and we believe in bringing the best people into this country to make it even better. We don't believe in importing poverty. Trust me, I live in California. We have enough poverty. We have enough issues. We don't need any more.
Boy.
Okay, so when did the perception of immigrants go from people trying to find their American dream to isolated freeloaders? Because people have always come from other countries. They were fleeing pogroms, they were fleeing horrible things, and came, oftentimes, very educated, well-versed in many things, but not necessarily in English. And when they got here, they became peddlers, or they became people that opened small stores, or laborers. So the idea that immigrants come over here and they don't know anything and they're dragging us down is crap, because we all come from immigrants, including you, Tomi Lahren. Yeah. You come from immigrants as well. And I don't know your family. I don't know Mr. Kelly's family, but I can tell you, folks came, and no, they didn't necessarily speak English. They came and they learned. But see, maybe you don't have a grandma twice, a great-grandma to remember what you sound like.
I have a question. She talks about low skills. What exactly are her skills? Does anybody know?
She's certainly not a historian. What's interesting is someone did do some research on Tomi Lahren's family, and I have it in front of me. Her second great-grandmother had been here for 10 years, yet spoke no English. Oh, my gosh. Her great-grandfather's 1985 baptism recorded only in Norwegian because They didn't speak any English. The 1930 census says Tommy's 3 times great-grandmother had been here for 41 years and still spoke German. She didn't speak English either. So she doesn't even know her own history. She certainly doesn't know this country's history. What happened to give me you're tired and you're poor and you're weak, and we're going to welcome
Well,
those
that's why we
people with
said
open
clearly
arms.
they haven't read it.
2 things that jump out at me are there's a contradiction of arguments. Either they're stealing American jobs or they're uneducated. You can't have both arguments.
Right.
Unskilled.
Or unskilled. But in this particular instance, they hone in on education and language. To me, this oversimplifies someone's values that they bring to the workforce, including like work ethic. In this study that I found, because I thought I'd much rather have someone that wasn't educated, or have as much education, however you want to word it, but is a hard worker. And in a study that was 10 decades of labor statistics, immigrants, this is a quote, immigrants are judged to have a better work ethic, work harder, more diligent, punctual, persistent, reliable, respectful, and cooperative. I'll take any of those skills over a degree any day.
Well, this is a lot of...
What she's saying is red meat to Trump's base. The anti-immigration rhetoric is something that I believe was at least 50% of what got him into office. Tomi Lahren has a huge following. She just does, especially online, especially with hardcore Trump supporters. What I will say is there's a difference between being for people going through the proper channels to get here legally and not being for open borders and having compassion for those of us that want to come here. My dad always talked about immigration saying these are God's children. They're trying to come here to seek a better life. Anyone who's toured the border, women literally die pregnant in the desert trying to get here, and we have to have compassion
here by themselves.
But there is a difference. It's okay to have a hardline stance on immigration, saying we want you to go through the proper channels, and still have compassion for the people who are wanting to come here. And that always seems to, for whatever reason.
I recall that that Donald Trump would like Norwegians to come here. So a lot of this is about race.
Well, yes, and I'd like to very quickly say that black immigrants are one of the most educated immigrant groups. Nigerian immigrants in particular are the most educated in the United States, with almost 2/3 holding college
Here's the bottom line. Quit messing with the immigrants because you're incorrect. And we will be right back. Welcome back. So before I get to this next topic, we need to set the mood a little. New York Magazine claims that Sean Hannity has been keeping the White House resident up late at night by making bedtime phone calls to him.
Oh, yeah.
So they can dish about the stuff like Russia, the investigation, how both their ratings are great, or the gossip about the other talk show hosts. Does this relationship confuse you at all or concern you?
I'll tell you, I wonder if Vladimir Putin knows. Oh, my God. That's his real boyfriend.
Can you imagine the texts that go back and forth? Hey, you up?
Sunny, sexy dancing's making my morning.
What are you wearing?
Is there anything odd about this?
Well, everyone has a work wife, and her name is Sean Hannity. I think it's a work spouse.
But isn't it uncomfortable that he is on television, sort of on a news, quasi-news
they don't actually work
program,
together, so
and
that
he's calling it every night?
We were talking about leaks before. This is really the major leak. Think about it. The president is telling him, and then he's saying it on television. That's the leak right there.
Yeah.
Jesus, my God. Thank God we're laughing at it. I mean, thank God I got your disco move to get me through this.
It's a scary thing because it's like state-run television. You're not supposed to be in touch.
But if I have to deal with this Sunny dancing to disco music the way it's done, I mean, I like it. In all seriousness, my friend Olivia Nuzzi wrote this piece. She's just an incredible journalist, break news left and right. It's really weird. I'd be so pissed off if my husband were calling anyone every night to like gossip and hang out.
So I shouldn't tell you about our calls then.
I knew it.
Hello, Ben.
I knew it. That being said, I did say if anyone wants to call me from the White House, I would like to just give them your number.
Give them to me. Send them to me.
From now on. Yes.
Can you imagine they're surprised when they call expecting Meghan McCain and they get Joy Behar?
Joy Behar. I've got some things to say to you on her behalf.
I wish they would.
Or Whoopi or Sarah or something.
Oh, no, don't call me. You don't want to call me ever. But we will be right back. This may come as news to some, but some women get freaked out at the thought of having sex when they're pregnant. But a blogger claimed that she could not get enough when she was expecting and was even doing it 5 days past her due date.
That's not.
She doesn't say with who. But she does say 5 days past her due date. So I'm supposed to look at y'all with a straight face and say, how is it for you?
What for you, miss?
Listen, I didn't know I was supposed to stop. So I just did what I did. Nobody said, oh, you shouldn't be doing that.
No one tells you that to stop.
Well, so why?
It's the dreams.
So what is
There's
this?
a lot of hormone dreams.
The first 3 months, you're nauseous. You don't want anybody near you.
No, I was fine. Listen, I was fine. I was fine. It'd be like,
It's the second trimester. Whoa, that's how you got it.
that's how I got it.
The second trimester, it's the really weird hormonal dreams. Like, I had this vivid dream that I had sex with Pablo Escobar.
Oh my God.
I'm not. Yes. Well, I was watching Narcos at the time, but I woke up the next morning. I'm telling you, it was the most vivid dream I've ever had. And then a mommy friend told me, watch out for those dreams. The second trimester is dangerous. And it was dangerous.
You know,
Nobody
Steve,
told me.
My
Go ahead.
husband told me that he had a dream this weekend that that Michael Avenatti and I were making out. I said it's so delightful that he's still jealous, even though he's comatose, of course, but he's still jealous about Michael. Because we met Michael Avenatti over the weekend somewhere, and we're chatting with him, and you know, we like each
Michael
other. But
Avenatti over the weekend?
Yeah.
Why aren't we talking about that?
I know. It was at a party. I just happened to see
Was this
him.
party with Christy Brinkley where there are pictures of him on TMZ?
Yes.
Really? That's where you were at this weekend and we waited until the 6 block to talk about
And she didn't mention it
What kind
earlier.
of show is this?
You did not mention it during the Hot Topics meeting.
Why would she? Because
It's a hot topic. Such a good day.
Now, you know what? This is why nobody tells y'all anything. Because you tell anything.
I wasn't going to tell you.
I know you wasn't going to tell me.
What's that?
Well, I'm going to talk about this since we're here.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Now, a couple years ago, I did an article for the Rolling Stones, and they said I was crazy because I was telling them that the square root of 2 was a rational number. This is the proof that the square root of 2 is a rational number.
Well,
It's
you
the-
went to Oxford to present,
to
right?
talk about this.
Yes.
And when I was at Oxford, now this is the point where 4 bubbles meet equally and oppositely.
touch it?
Yes, and it's where 12 planes meet. This is an undiscovered geometry that I'm now making known to the world here on this show.
Isn't that fantastic?
And what was the reception?
Well, when I was at Oxford, they were so upset because how can a man that didn't graduate from one of their prestigious schools come and tell them that the square root of 2 was a rational number? And I said, I didn't come to tell you guys this. I just came to prove to you that it's a rational number. And they didn't like it. They didn't like it.
They didn't like
They
it.
didn't
Nobody
like
likes to be
Why
one
didn't
up.
you like it? Because you didn't go to Oxford?
Well, because...
That I'm aware of?
Well, you have to remember our entire world economy is based on 1 × 1 = 1. So if you can prove that an action times an action equals a reaction, which science proves, then 1 × 1 must equal more than 1. And to have the physical proof of it, that kind of shakes things up a bit.
Well, you're a shaker-upper.
Well, that's
The Oxford Goodwill Hunting.
Thank you. That's
I guess they don't like to be trumped. So here's my question for you, because we were talking about immigration before on the panel, and I'm a child of Italian-American grandparents my mother was born here, but my father was born in Italy, and I went to all city schools, got free education pretty much, and I think that I'm a good example of immigration.
Yep.
What about you?
Well, my parents, I mean, I'm 62% West African, 37% Western European. I'm not sure all the Western European that's in me was by choice, but my family, you know, all of America is made up of immigrants. And to the universe, there are no borders. It's just mankind that has placed these borders. And we have to remember the American Indians allowed Europeans to come in, and they fed them and they looked after them because they were their weak. So when you take the very kindness that was given to you so you can have life, and you use it to prevent somebody from having life, even separating someone from their children, that is an ungodly and unconscious act that will reap consequences.
That's right.
That's so true.
We're taking a little turn here, or a big turn. In 2005, you were in the movie Hustle and Flow.
Yes.
Also, Taraji P. Henson was in that. Your character, DJ, had a catchphrase of sorts. What was it?
Look here, mine.
Yeah.
Look here, mine. Well, a fan had the idea to... No, it's coming.
It's
coming.
mine. It's mine.
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 A fan had the idea to turn you and that catchphrase into a meme of a Jedi, which resulted in this. Ain't no more Jedi, man. So lots of other fans jumped on this. Wait, no, we're gonna let the man who originated this do it now. You gotta read the rest of these, okay? Here we go. Let's
Okay,
pull
I'm
it up.
gonna read them.
Okay.
I can't see
Oh,
it.
here, wait, here.
I need to be able to look
Do
at it.
you wanna?
Oh.
Do you want?
Do you want to build a snow mine?
We got another one. Keep them coming.
Look, they took my son, man.
Next. Come on.
Purple mine.
And then the last one. Come on.
Where is it?
There.
What was interesting about that, they said in one weekend, there was more memes made from me and Maine than the 13 years that Jordan had the crying meme.
Oh, the crying.
People jumped onto it that much that in one weekend it was more than 13 years of wood. So I just found that as just a sweet little thing, because they did it to make fun, but I found some fun in it.
Well, you know, the great thing about the memes are people's hearts are generally in the right place, and some are really witty.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey, Mike.
I would.
And just to hear her say that is going to make me so happy, don't you think, man?
Yes. Terrence, your new show, Terrence Howard's Fright Club, comes out later this month. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Well, I wanted it to be more like Blair Witch Project meets punk, but then I got with Propagate, and they had some really other ideas. So it was like Terrence Howard presents Scare Tactics, but to my fans. But to watch the fans who just want to see you, they will believe almost anything. So it was a chance for me to play with some of my friends and watching them just get scared out of their minds.
Did you?
I would die.
I know, it's like Sunny's hell.
I would die.
Were you the kind of kid that liked to be scared? Like, were you just scared to practice? No.
I couldn't sleep by myself until I was almost 30 years old because I watched The Exorcist. And
that's
let me
your
know, I'll
movie.
tell y'all a short story. Remember the '94